German media likes to talk about how bad Chinese media is. It's propaganda, this and that. And I'm like, guys, you do the same thing. The only difference is it's not government owned, really. It's more privately owned. It's an oligarchy. It's the same thing, though. They change public opinion. That's why a person like Merkel won. Tell me something that Angela Merkel says, I stand here for and I fight for it. She doesn't. She doesn't care. The only thing she cares about is staying on that place as a chancellor. The only reason she stepped down is because she was tired of it.
Hi, welcome back to Hybrid Talk. So Germany is having an election soon, and we thought, why not talk with someone who will actually vote for this election? Brilliant, right? So recently we had a conversation with a real-life German citizen, not a robot, to chat about German politics. We covered some hot political topics: immigration policy, nuclear energy, and the form of democracy. Yes, we kinda had a mini political debate. Now this conversation about 1 hour and a half. It's a bit long, but I think it's very interesting and it's worth it. You will hear some first-hand experiences from someone casting the vote. And in case you don't know much about the election system in Germany, one speaker had a brief introduction on the parliamentary democracy in Germany. So grab a coffee or maybe a German beer and let's dive it.
The political system in Germany is called parliamentary democracy. And before, we call Germany as Weimar Republic. So there's two different kinds of basic law. Before, we called it the constitutional law of Weimar Republic. And now the basic law of Germany is German's basic law. In Germans, we call it Grundgesetz. And this kind of parliamentary democracy is totally different from the constitutional law, which is based by Weimar Republic. Because Weimar Republic is quite similar with the American systems. So at that time, the High President could dissolve the government and also the parliament. But nowadays, the federal chancellors don't have such right to dissolve the parliament. And the head of state is primarily a ceremonial role. So while real power is held by the federal chancellor, these Bundeskanzlers. So, and also the second I thought we should talk about is this kind of separation of powers in German's government. It means there is a close connection between executive and legislative power. And the chancellor and cabinet members usually comes from the majority party or ruling coalition in parliament. So it means that in Germany, the parties decide on the government. And the others we should know is the voters who is in these elections procedures is willing to vote the parties. So it's not quite similar like the Americans' presidential system that the voters in Americans would really like to select a candidate or president. But in Germany, the most important is we choose the party. So I thought it was very interesting because what I have introduced before, Germany's system was quite similar as the American system, this kind of constitution of Weimar Republic. But then the question is why it changed. And the most interesting background, I thought it was the right wings in Second World War. So we can see how the right wings push Hitler's to become the most powerful man. And even the High President cannot stop him. So nowadays, another topic is, will the nowadays German's government system, this kind of parliamentary democracy, stop the right wings? So I'm also quite looking forward to see how the nowadays German's legal systems and also the democracy systems could give us a possibility to realize if such democracy systems could help. So this is very important. And also there's a news that just around these days, the CDU would like to have a new migrations law. And fortunately, it fails. It means it used to combine the voters from AfD and they would like to have a new migrations law. But then it fails because it didn't win the majorities in the parliament. So it also gives us the people who have migration background the hope that nowadays the majorities of Germany maybe is not totally agree with the members of right wings and also this kind of AfD party. So this is my short introductions of German parliamentary democracy. Thank you.
Yeah, CDU is a traditional conservative party. Its political positioning is central right. That means it's not a far right party. It's not a left party either. CDU is a center right party. Okay. So I think in terms of CDU's policy, we cannot simply talk about the CDU policy. We must talk about economic policy, cultural policy, and, for example, industry policy, and social policy, and so on. If you are talking about the social values, I think CDU is quite a conservative party, especially under the leadership of the current chairman of CDU, Friedrich Merz. I think he is quite a conservative politician. He is quite different from his predecessor, Angela Merkel. I think under Angela Merkel's leadership, CDU is changed from one traditional conservative party to one center party. The German people have used to say, Angela Merkel has modernized CDU. That means she has changed CDU in many dimensions. I think the most important and probably most controversial policy is about migration. In 2015, Angela Merkel has allowed about 1 million refugees to enter Germany. I think this policy is quite controversial, and this has triggered the rise of the far-right party, the so-called far-right party, AfD, alternative for Germany, right? So I think CDU has changed under the leadership of Angela Merkel, but now Friedrich Merz is the chairman of CDU, and the environment of Germany has changed a lot. Right now, I think the people of Germany are more and more concerned about migration and refugee. And I think, in this sense, I believe this election on February 23rd is very important, probably decisive in terms of migration. And I think this is also a challenge for Friedrich Merz. He has proposed a law, although has mentioned, but he has failed to pass this law. I just read the news. So I think this election is very important and decisive. This is a vote for many important policies. This is my understanding about the CDU. I think this is quite a complicated topic. We cannot discuss everything. We cannot discuss everything about the CDU. But probably the most important point is about the migration policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Qiaoting, for sharing your insights. Yeah, I think immigration could be one of the biggest topics in this year's election. Particularly, I think for the immigration with Muslim background. In the past, the German government didn't allow these German citizen or Arab citizen to have double citizenship, and now they tell them that you can apply for your Turkish passport. At the same time, you can still keep your German passport. Some of my Turkish friends, they think it's actually a very dangerous signal that it looks like the German government want to do something negative for German citizens with an immigrant background.
I think everything nowadays is considered important when we talk about immigration, I guess. I know that this is his favorite topic, I guess, when they talk about immigration and all that stuff. The thing is that now all of a sudden CDU is all at this moment more strict on the idea of reducing immigration when since 2015, CDU has been very open to let in a lot of immigrants all of a sudden. Now they change it. I can see why they do it. The thing is, like, someone like Angela Merkel says something like, oh, we are able to do this. And then after 100,000 immigrants, they almost call a state of emergency, basically saying that they cannot provide for all of them. So I'm asking myself, how are you going to provide for all these immigrants when you do not have to seem to have the, how's it called? All the money, all the resources available to really provide for all these people. All of a sudden now they want to say, let's make a stricter immigration policy. I personally don't see that happening, even if they get in power, because what AfD and CDU and all the other parties do when they're not in power is they spread populist ideas. Populism is basically meaning you say what people want to hear. And when they get in power, they don't do that. I can list every major party right now where they said something and they didn't do it. They promised something, and then when they're in power, they say, "Oh, we can't do it." Then they don't even talk about it anymore. Instead, they do something different. I can say that about every single party right now in Germany, especially CDU. So when they get in power, do not expect an immigration policy that is like getting really strict where no person from the Middle East can go in there anymore. It doesn't happen. I don't see it happening. Even if people want to see it, I don't think it will happen. That's my general opinion about this, because I've seen this process way too many times. Saying, "Oh, we're not in power. Oh, let's say something that people want to hear. We're in power. Let's not implement it. Forget about it. Instead, let's do more of the opposite." And I can say that to every single party right now. That's the thing. That's what I say. That's what they do. They spread populist ideas. They only blame AfD for doing that, but everyone does it. If you go out and see SPD right now saying, "Oh, we want to increase pension funds for old people." You've been in power since 2021. You haven't done it since. So when are you going to do it? When you stay in power? I don't see it. That's what I call populism, because that's exactly what it is. And that's my problem with these major, like the mainstream parties, I think. Mainstream parties do that because they can do it. People just believe them, and then they vote for them, you know? And then they get mad because they don't implement these things that they promise for people. That's the discourse that I'm seeing right now in German politics, and people are fed up. I mean, last year's, I think it was 2017. I think only 46% of people in certain areas, just only that amount of people voted. Meaning, like, you know, the rest, they are not even engaged with it anymore because they don't care about it. And I can understand why, because they see this pattern and they don't like it. And I say, "Oh, why should I vote for you?" This is exactly what we see in Germany. And yeah, that's the problem right now that is arising in Germany. The only reason right now it's so important is because Olaf Scholz lost the trust vote. I think that didn't happen for a long time right now, that we had a government that actually lost trust, so that they're getting voted out from the parliament. So now we have to do another re-election. It's like, I think within the course of 3 years now, from 2021 to 2024, I have to vote like 3 times now. Goes to show you what people actually think about the government and how they feel about it. Because if you're not able to gain trust from the public and even the own parliament, then I think you do something wrong. So I don't understand what they expected if people are saying, "We don't trust you guys." And do you think you're going to get reelected like this? I don't see it happening, but that's their own fault. They say things and they don't do it. That's my problem with the whole German political landscape right now. You say something, but you don't do it. That's my problem. So yeah, that's my opinion about all of this.
Hey, thank you, Snake. So I get what you mean, that these parties, when they trying to get the votes, and then they will claim that they want to do something, they have certain policies, but once they come to power, they wouldn't take measure for these policies. I just have a question on AfD, because currently, particularly among Chinese group, there's kind of some worries on AfD that if the AfD come to power, they probably will take serious policies against immigrations, even though for the so-called legal immigrations. For example, some Chinese worry that the AfD will kick all Chinese out. I think it's like they worry too much. But there's also some Chinese quite support for AfD, but I don't know exactly the data. Currently, I think we couldn't really track the data. So do you think AfD will do what they want during the election?
I think, like I said, populism. That's what they do. They say what people want to hear. But I don't remember them saying something like that they specifically target Chinese people, actually. I don't think they have a problem with them. I think it's just people who look like, like Turkish or, I don't know, Arab people or Afghan people. So they want to get rid of that more than rather Asians, I think. Asians are like so insignificant because nobody talks about them. I mean, even then, you go to Düsseldorf and you find a place that is completely Japanese, but people don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with it either, but I think when it comes to immigration, it's always conflicted with the word Middle Eastern people, not like necessarily Koreans or Chinese or Japanese, nothing like that. I think it's more the Middle Eastern people. It's more of a, like, they pick and choose instead of saying we are like 100% against immigration. And like I said, I don't know if they would come to power. Do they really going to implement these type of immigration policies? I don't know. That remains to be seen. But I don't know if they're going to get the majority this time. So yeah, that's my answer to that.
It seems that you don't trust all the established parties in Germany. There are, as far as I understand, there are 6 major political parties in Germany. You don't trust all of them, right?
Now, I've been living now 31 years in this system. And I can tell you one thing right now. I don't know how it's necessarily in China. I know there's problems. I wouldn't want to live there, actually. I say that. But here's one thing. In Germany, the problem is if you are a person, a public person that says something, and then you get into power and you don't implement any of it, you have 4 years time, actually. And even you can win the election every single time, but you don't implement it. Then why do I keep voting for you? See, this is the problem with German voters nowadays. And I talk with people about it. It's like, why do you actually expect if they keep on saying things to you and they don't implement it? If they would tell you, if they would tell me in the beginning before the election, hey, I cannot implement this, it would take God knows how many years. And I would say, okay, at least you tell the truth to me. You know, I will not vote for you, but I respect you for telling you the truth, for telling the truth. But they don't do that. I can give you a great example. Let's take Angela Merkel, for example. Before she got elected, she had to do a race against Gerhard Schrödel. Gerhard Schrödel said in the beginning when 9/11 happened, that huge terror attack, everybody showed solidarity with America, saying, oh, we feel sorry for you, and we always be against terrorism. Fine, great. Do you know why he lost the election? Because he said, I don't want to go into Iraq and fight wars. That's why he lost the election. He actually told the truth. He said, I don't want to go in and fight again. Because he said, I made this mistake of going into Yugoslavia without a UN mandate and cause war. They use depleted uranium, by the way, against people. Depleted uranium. You know what that is? It's uranium ammunition. If you get hit by this, you can get cancer. And you can die maybe 20 years later, but you suffer a lot. That's even worse than an atomic bomb, if you ask me. You know, you can die from it later on. You suffer a lot, but not like an atomic bomb where you instantly die. That's the problem. And he said that in an interview. I said, I was breaking international laws, actually. I was breaking international laws. I bombed Yugoslavia. And then he said, because of this, I don't want to go to Iraq. And then he lost the vote. You know why? Because the media just jumped on him and saying how bad of a chancellor he is, so he must lose. The same media, by the way, that years before said that he is the perfect candidate as a chancellor. You see, public opinion is being very much influenced by the media here. The media says that they are very independent and all that stuff, when in reality, most of the media is owned by 5 families here. It's an oligarchy. You know, they constantly, it's funny to me that German media likes to talk about how bad Chinese media is. It's propaganda, this and that. And I'm like, guys, you do the same thing. The only difference is it's not government owned, really. It's more privately owned. It's an oligarchy. It's the same thing, though. They change public opinion. That's why a person like Merkel won. And during the time when Gerhard Schrödel was against going into Iraq, guess what Frau Merkel did? Well, she said, she's pro-war. Let's go to Iraq. Let's bomb the place. Then she won the election. Let's likes to talk about how bad Chinese media is. It's propaganda, this and that. And I'm like, guys, you do the same thing. The only difference is it's not government owned, really. It's more privately owned. It's an oligarchy. It's the same thing, though. They change public opinion. That's why a person like Merkel won. During the time when Gerhard Schrödel was against going into Iraq, guess what Frau Merkel did? Well, she said, she's pro-war. Let's go to Iraq. Let's bomb the place. Then she won the election. That's exactly what this is. Election is being influenced by public opinion, not really what people want, not what people really need to hear, but what's now the mainstream. If the mainstream is, oh, I'm pro-war, then this person who's pro-war will win the election for the most part. That's the problem that we have here. I don't like that. We talk about nowadays how, for example, we want less dependency on Russia because of the gas. Mr. Habeck says that nuclear energy is bad because it shows dependency on Russia. There's two people now who do huge mistakes. First of all, Angela Merkel made a mistake. Remember when Fukushima happened? Earthquake. That huge earthquake, which then all of a sudden, where these nuclear wastes came out of the nuclear reactors, and then all of a sudden, in Germany, we had this huge discussion. What about nuclear energy? You know, is that safe? Is that not safe? If Fukushima wouldn't have happened, I guarantee you, we would still have these nuclear reactors running with no problem. That would also mean less dependency on Russia. Do you know why? Because if we have nuclear reactors, we wouldn't have to buy uranium or fuel, if you will, uranium fuel from Russia. We could have gotten from Canada. We could have gotten it from France. We could have even gotten to Africa or even to Tajikistan and get all these resources that we needed. We could have gotten completely out of the way of Russia. But because of Fukushima, what did the media do? Nuclear energy is dangerous. We shouldn't use it. And Angela Merkel, who was pro-nuclear energy before that, looked at the media and said, we had to get rid of it. All of a sudden, she says it's unsafe. So we go from nuclear energy is very safe to it's unsafe. The woman studied physics, by the way. You do know that. And now she's flipping over like this. How in the hell are you supposed to tell me that you're smart about this? You're not smart about this. I know what you want to do. You want to stay in power. That's the problem. You don't want change. You just want to stay in power. I believe that. I believe Merkel doesn't stand for something. Tell me something, anyone who's watching it, tell me something that Angela Merkel says, I stand here for and I fight for it. She doesn't. She doesn't care. The only thing she cares about is staying on that place as a chancellor. The only reason she stepped down is because she was tired of it. Since 2005, she's been doing it. And then 2021 said, I don't want to do it no more. Maybe, I don't know, maybe COVID was too much for her to handle. I don't know. But that's the problem. And I can say that about any party that was in power. They say something and they don't do it. They just go by what the mainstream is saying. And that is being influenced by the media. And that is what I'm seeing in Germany right now. And I want to see I want to see it changed. But I don't think it will be changing when people keep voting for these mainstream parties, because these mainstream parties are, I wouldn't even say, I'm going to say, I think they're in bed with each other almost. They're working together, I have a feeling, because they cannot give me an alternative. Even if AfD has the word alternative in name, I think once they get in power, they do the most things that CDU or SPD does. When it comes to fiscal policy, maybe foreign policy will be a little bit different, but I don't see it happening because, hey, they keep saying that AfD is super anti-Semitic, but why are they going to Israel and have all these meetings with Israeli parties? Doesn't sound anti-Semitic to me. You know, an anti-Semite would never sit down next to a Jewish person or something and talk politics with him. So yeah, I don't see it happening. So yeah, that's why these mainstream parties are something that I wouldn't really recommend listening to, because they just say what people want to hear. And when they say something that is kind of true, and it's like, yeah, he's got a point. He's being ostracized. Even though by the way, I'm not a fan of Gerhard Schrödel. But when he said, I don't want to go into Iraq because it's not the right thing to do, he said the truth. That's the thing. And when they say something correct, then all of a sudden hell breaks loose, and we don't have a discussion really. We just have someone being crucified by the media. And that's what I don't like. This is not genuine. This is something I don't want to see anymore. We don't have really discourse. We only have like this black and whites type of thinking. You know, you're either with us or you're against us. And that should go. That should completely go. And yeah, all these smaller parties, I mean, there's smaller ones, but I don't know exactly what they stand for, to be honest. I think I kind of feel sorry for them because they never get 5%. Because once you don't get 5%, you're not in parliament. So too bad for them, I guess. So yeah, I was rambling a lot about this, but this is like the discourse that we see right now. And I think a lot of people are very blind about it, or they just don't want to deal with it. So they just say, oh, let me just vote for this party. But I think that's a strong case of Stockholm syndrome, and I don't like this. So yeah, this is my general opinion about parties like this. I could go on and on, but you know, it would be too long.
I can understand your disappointment because the politicians or the main political parties have promise too much, but the implementation is poor. Therefore, I understand your failing. But I'm sorry, but I'm thinking about the reason why they cannot deliver their promise. I think it's related to the German political system. Germany has many parties in the parliament. It's very different from the American system. In the United States, you have only Democratic Party and Republican Party. So if you have the simple majority, if you are more than 50%, so you have the capabilities to implement your promise. For example, Trump is now in power. He is quickly implementing his idea. But in Germany, it's really difficult. Sometimes I think that politicians have the political wills to implement their agenda, but they don't have such capabilities. For example, we used to say it's a system of the winners takes everything. But in Germany, there is checks and balance. It's more difficult, and I think it's more complicated to make a consensus. This is my understanding.
It's always kind of hard to really implement, but let's just say a guy like Trump, for example, says something, and he says, we build a wall, we make sure that immigrants are not going to come in. By the way, he was elected 2016, and all the way to 2020, they haven't done it. If he tells me, well, Congress doesn't let me do it or something, then you should have said that in the very beginning. The only reason he's winning is because he's also doing populism. It's like Dave Chappelle said, a comedian, he said he's an honest liar. He's very honest about that what he says is kind of true. But people think that he's like this anti-establishment type of guy, which is not true. He isn't. He is not. He is establishment. He's part of it. If you watch the 2016 discussion with Hillary Clinton, he screamed like the whole system is rigged. The whole system is rigged. It's corrupt and this and that. And Hillary Clinton and Obama were shaking their heads and said, no, it's not. And then the presenter said, well, Mr. Trump, if you say that the system is rigged, well, what will be your evidence? Do you know what he said? He said, I know the system's rigged because I use it. And if you want me to pay my taxes, change the tax code. But I know all the donors and friends of Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party enjoy the same tax breaks as I do. So I'm saying, yeah, he's correct. But you also tell me right now that you're part of this establishment. How can you tell me that you're for the normal people? You're not. You enjoy the same tax breaks. And by the way, you haven't changed the tax breaks while you were in power. Doesn't seem to be a problem for you to enjoy these things. Now, if I would be Donald Trump, would I have done it? Would I have changed tax breaks? Maybe not, because I enjoy it. So yeah, I don't think this guy is necessarily saying lies, but even what he says is true, he doesn't implement it. If he has a problem with obvious immigrants that do stupid stuff, like, killing people and all that stuff, listen, I got absolutely no remorse for these people. If it was up to me, death penalty. I don't care. Death penalty right away. Because they took lives, innocent lives of people. They stabbed little kids. You don't have any honor in my eyes left anymore. They say in the first part of the Grundgesetz of our law, die Würde des Menschen ist unantastbar. So you cannot touch a person's dignity. Listen, if you do something like this, you don't have dignity in my eyes anymore. You deserve the death penalty. Now, we can't do that anymore because we're in the EU. EU does not allow countries to do death penalty. I would do it. So I can understand people's sentiment of saying, hey, maybe we should restrict immigrants. And I say, yeah, maybe you should do better background checks. Maybe you should listen to other countries that tell you, hey, this guy is in your country right now. He's a known terrorist. Lock him up or send him to our place so we can lock him up. You know who did this? Turkey did it, but they didn't listen. They had 14,000 files full of people that did stupid stuff. Like we talk about people being members of ISIS, people being members of the PKK. Both of these groups have something in common. They're on the terror watch list. If I distribute ISIS propaganda on the internet, the special forces will knock on my door and they seize my computer. That's very simple. That's what they do. So here I can understand that. Hey, there's stupid people here. Get rid of them or lock them up, put them in jail or bring them to the countries of origin. Like, for example, if a Turkish immigrant who's Kurdish or whatever, who fought for the PKK, who is a known terrorist group, then bring them to Turkey and lock them up. Very simple. That's just like that. We can do it like this. But for some reason, people don't do that in the government. I don't know why they don't do it. Maybe they have a problem with locking up people, or maybe they think there's still good in their hearts. I don't know. I don't see anything good if you go to a country and fight for PKK or ISIS, which are known terrorists. I don't see anything good in you anymore. So lock them up or send them to countries of origins where they belong to and then lock them up there or give them the death penalty. I don't care because they deserve it. Then I can understand. Yes, immigration policies make sense. Illegal immigration makes sense. But I don't see it happening with let's completely shut down immigration. I don't see that happening. That's not going to happen. That's the thing. Here I can understand it. But like I said, this whole immigration talk of whether they implement it or not, it's too much of a divisive conversation right now, where they say, you know, all Muslims are kidney terrorists and this and that. Like I see the forums, I see that, and they always kind of use this as a scapegoat of saying that anyone who's against or who's for, throwing out illegal immigrants are Nazis. Hey, listen, talk with my mom about this. She's Turkish. She will tell you, like, these people are scum. Well, she would also kill them. I don't care. But she's not a Nazi. I mean, she's a Turkish immigrant, for God's sakes. Like, come on. Like, this is what I'm talking about. And this is the type of thing, like, we have to do some type of non-divisive discussion about this instead of looking at one group and say every single one of them is the same. There's good people that I met that are Turkish, and there's also quote unquote assholes who are bad, people who are Turkish. And then there's like people who go to ISIS, they go to PKK and they do atrocious things. Yeah, they deserve nothing but bad things to them. I would put the death penalty and see and I would put an example. If you do this, what he did, you end up like him. I would show everybody. So everybody is afraid of it. That's okay. We're not going to do that stuff. So that's what I would do. And that's already extreme. Like that's an extreme talking point. I know, but that's how I feel about it. So yeah, I can see both sides here. Like people can say, well, maybe immigration with no limits is a bad thing. But then on the other side, completely shutting it down is also maybe not a good thing. Maybe like economically it's not a good thing. But like I said, the other side, these people who do stupid stuff, they're not good economically because they don't do anything for us instead of just causing a ruckus, causing chaos. That's the problem. And we should just focus on that. That's it. So all the Chinese people, listen, if you don't do anything stupid, then the German government is not going to cast you out. They're not going to do this. I think they're even more, they're nicer to Chinese people than others, actually, in my opinion. I don't see any huge problem with, Chinese people coming to Germany and studying all that stuff, especially due to the fact that we in the German universities have so many partnerships with Chinese universities like the Nanjing University or Fudan University or Taiwan University or Beijing University. Like it's everywhere. We have all these partnerships. You have it easier than other countries, trust me, way easier. Other people have to do way more paper stuff than you guys will ever be doing. So yeah, concerning I'm rambling again, sorry. The whole thing about immigration is make sure that we have talking points that actually make sense and where it's actually needed instead of just saying, let's completely shut it down. It's a stupid idea. It's not going to happen. No country does this, except maybe for North Korea. And nobody wants to go to North Korea. So yeah, that's my talking points.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you that it's impossible to shut down all the legal immigration. Germany really need immigration to support the economy. Like we can see that there's many, like during a shop which are run by Arab or Turkish, and many of the taxi drivers are mainly Arab or Turkish. So, and also the Asian markets are basically in every district in Berlin. So immigrants are very important for German economy. Oh,
thank you very much. I thought it was very interesting to hear what Snake have said, because I just would like to at first show off my own feelings about the opinion from Snake. My feeling is Snake would like to announce that there has been already some objective, very poor stuff. And the problem of the politics is the politicians make promise, but they cannot make their promise come true. But I thought a little bit different, because the problem is the promise can also be different. And the problem is not if the promise can come true, but the problem is change to what? And also, if you would like to change something, who pay the price? So I say inside of the party ideology, then you can see different kind of promise. So then the first problem is what kind of promise you think is quite necessary, or you would like to believe that this is the truth. Because there's also the others people, they would argue that I am a cosmopolitan. So it means that when you say there is some kind of illegal immigrations, then the problem is when a local German citizens didn't obey the law, like some of them kill their wives. Such German citizens need such background check. When someone did a crime, then he deserves to leave out of Germany, because there is a lot of rules and a lot of ideological backgrounds. And different people, when some of them are cosmopolitans, some of them are nationalisms, they will have the different goal. So it means this kind of promise can also be differently. So my question is, if you say that there is already a kind of good stuff, a kind of very necessary politic, would you like to tell us what's your purpose of politic, or when you think what kind of government you think is quite fit for your dream? I thought it was very interesting, because when you always say they have promised but they didn't follow the promise, then I would like to know that what kind of government or what kind of politic you think is the necessary one. So this is my first question. And my second question is about when you talk about this kind of nuke energy, the problem is when you live near this kind of energy factories, would you like to choose that Germany should have? Because when you live so far away from this kind of factory, you will say, okay, Germany could have such nuke energy because I live far away. So why I should like to say about this? Because different religious, different area of the peoples, they will carry different price. So the problem is not very simple, like if neutral energies can contribute a lot to the energy politic. But the problem is, would you like to pay the price when you are the interest affected people? So my question is also about to you, when you thought such promises is very important, what kind of price would you like to give? And when you thought this kind of price is really affordable, how could you let the other people to think as you that such price should give? So that's my questions and commentaries. Thank you.
Let's start with the nuclear energy thing. First off, I never said that nuclear energy is completely safe. That's number one. That's number one. My problem is the discourse about it. If Angela Merkel says nuclear energy is safe, then an earthquake happens in another side of the world. The media goes, nuclear energy is not good anymore. It's not safe. Maybe you have to rethink about it. Then they change it. Then I know, not assume, I know that this whole idea of whether being is safe or not is disingenuous. Why? Because they didn't look at it and say, yeah, maybe we made a mistake. No, they just looked at it because the media is telling you all of a sudden it's bad. There's no discourse. There's no, is it safe or not? How can we make sure that, that most people can benefit from it? How can we make sure that it's safer? How can we learn about, how to modernize it, I guess. When Fukushima happened, Angela Merkel made a sentence. She said literally, I quote, "We cannot say if nuclear energy is safe, they are safe." She literally contradicted herself within her own sentence. That's disingenuous. If you tell me years that nuclear energy is good and safe, and all of a sudden an earthquake happens, and then all of a sudden you say it's not safe anymore, let's shut everything down. Well, first of all, economically, it's actually like a stupid idea, to be honest, because now you completely destroy your whole infrastructure. But now you create a problem where I can look at you and say, okay, you're not genuine. You just do whatever the media tells you. That's the problem, because that all of this is all the blame to be on the media. That's all. They say it's not good anymore. There needs to be a change. Merkel does this. Why? Because she's afraid that she will lose the next election. That's the problem. She doesn't care about whether nuclear energy is safe or not. I mean, she could talk about it because, I mean, I don't know if she can still, because she used to study nuclear energy. She studied nuclear physics, by the way, so she must be an expert, but the way she sounded like she heard nuclear energy for the very first time. And she just goes by the media. That's the problem that I have. It's not about whether it's safe or not. I know that people may have a problem with nuclear energy and all that, but let's just say there's an election in Germany and they say, do you want nuclear energy? And I don't know, 70% of the whole population says yes. Well, guess what? Guess what the 30% has to do? They have to oblige to this because that's a democracy. Democracy says the majority wins. I may not like it. If they say, look, if they say something like, do you want Rundfunkgebühren to be abolished? And 80% says no. I would be saying 80% of you guys are dumb. But it's a democracy. I have to oblige to that. If 80% thinks we need to pay television fees and all that stuff, then I have to say, okay, can't say anything about it. In Switzerland, they do this. That's the type of thing I would actually like, because they talk about laws that are being implemented and then they let the people decide. They actually had a vote about COVID restrictions. Do you want the restrictions to remain? Interestingly enough, the majority said yes. And I would have said no, because I know these restrictions didn't work. But in Switzerland, they have the choice to vote about this. There's more direct democracy. That's what I would like to have. Because you can tell me whatever. You can promise me that I will get rich in 5 years. But if you don't implement it, then of course I would be like, okay, you lied to me. That's the problem. So what we should have is, we should have more of a connection between government and people. The government and people, meaning that more choices should be also put on the voters. Switzerland does it. Switzerland is not a chaotic hell right now or something. No, they actually are functioning. Because nobody says, well, look at Switzerland, that's a bad country. No, they just look at this. We should do the same thing. That's what everyone says. Why? Because they have more direct democracy. More laws, more discussions are being put on the voter ballots. Do you want the TV fees to still be there, or do you want them to be abolished? Do you want to keep the COVID restrictions? Do you guys think we should go into the EU? By the way, when they voted on the EU, people said no. See that? That's what I like. And then they implemented. I said, oh, okay, we have to implement it that way. We can't go into the EU. That we can make business with EU countries, sure, no problem, if it works for you. But we're not allowed to do it right now because the people said we can't do it. Now we're going to do it. They even had a currency voting, whether they want to have their currency backed by gold again. People don't know that, but they did. Interesting enough, people said no for the most part. I would have said yes, because then that would make your currency even more valuable than it already is. So this is what I would like to see. The thing is, if you do that and if you implement actually these type of laws, you will actually gain more trust to the people, because then you say, hey, look, we abolished it for you guys. Let's work together. Let's do more. If they would have, I swear on my life, if they would have done something like this, like lifting COVID restrictions during, I don't know, 2022, an election or something like that. Let's say they make a referendum or something. Do you want COVID restrictions to be gone in all of Germany? If they would have said yes and they would have implemented it, people would trust this government even more. But do you know why they didn't trust them? Because Olaf Scholz said, if I will be chancellor, there will be no mandatory vaccinations. And what do they do right after? Oh, let's implement it. Now, obviously, they cannot just implement it because they have to go through parliament. But who wasn't asked for this? Who didn't they ask to vote for it, huh? The people that actually suffer from these COVID restrictions. Instead, it's the politicians. Now, I say for the first time, hey, good job, politicians. You actually, for the first time, understood to not implement a stupid law that didn't make any sense. For the first time. But then you can see how incompetent they are. They actually thought they can implement it. And then they got hit in the face by this and said, okay, we cannot implement it. By the way, they implemented in the hospitals without a vote, by the way. Do you think that went through? No, it didn't, because people didn't care. The reason why it didn't work is because people within the hospital says, I don't want to get vaccinated. And instead of suspending them, they just kept them in there because they already have a problem with with manpower. They don't have enough people to work in hospitals. That's the problem. These type of things, when I see this, I see incompetence. I don't see actually a trust towards the people. Hey, what do you guys think about COVID restrictions? Should we lift that? Should we vote on it? What about fiscal policies? What do you think? Should we ask the the European Central Bank to do certain things that maybe makes the euro better? Should we implement something else? Maybe another currency? How about that? What about our foreign policy? Do you think we should go to war? Do you think we should send weapons to this place? Do you think we should, I don't know, decrease taxes in certain areas? What about this? Should we vote on it? I think we should, but they don't do that because they don't care. And that's what I want. More direct democracy. More direct in connection with the people. They always say, oh, you have 2 votes. You can vote for a representative in your district and for the parliament. Well, first of all, I don't give a damn what a person does in a district because he has any power. That's the problem. And I want more connection with the government to give me, the person who's paying their tax, who's paying their freaking their salaries, to tell them, hey, sit down and shut up and let me vote. That's what I would tell them. Because if they don't, I don't trust them. And if they implement things that I want to see, or the government or the majority does, do you think they will be trusted more? Absolutely, because they do exactly what the majority wants. But they don't do that because they don't want that. They don't trust us, and we don't trust them for it. That's the problem, what we have right now in Germany. So yes, in order to close everything out, nuclear energy, I cannot tell you whether it's safe or not. Other countries do it. France is doing it. They're like the top leader of nuclear energy. You know, they don't seem to be much of a problem because they will never say, hey, we get rid of nuclear energy anymore. Pfft, never in their life they will do this. I cannot tell you whether it's safe or not. But what I didn't like is the discourse about it. A tragedy happens in a different part of the world that is like kilometers away from us. All of a sudden, nuclear energy is the devil of is the root of all evil. Then they implement, oh, let's shut everything down. Let's get more gas from Russia, by the way. Yeah, that's a great idea. Be more dependent on Russia, the country you don't like, all of a sudden. Yeah.
But like since the 1980s, there's already strong sentiment against the nuclear energy. Like particularly people, I don't know if from Green Party or they went to the street and then for nuclear energy. But for 30 years, the German government still trying to promote the nuclear energy, even promote it abroad to country, to China, to Africa.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It was an initiative. That's what they do. But it didn't work at the beginning. The only reason it worked was because of Fukushima. That's the only reason. If it wouldn't have happened, there would be never talk about shutting everything down and this and that. Yes, we shut down coal mines because we know it's not good for the coal miners and all that stuff. It's really polluting the air. You know, I can see that. But when it comes to like nuclear energy, I cannot really say that. Yes, it can be dangerous. Every resource right away has its disadvantages. Don't think gas is 100% safe. But the thing is, they always talk about Russian dependency. Oh, we should be dependent. We shouldn't be so dependent on Russia because Angela Merkel, I say that because Angela Merkel decided to increase Russian gas dependency to 60% of our whole energy infrastructure. 60%, are you kidding me? If you would have had the nuclear energy, you would have less dependency. You wouldn't even have to buy uranium from Russia. You could have bought it from Canada because Canada does it too. So to sum it up, like I said, don't know if it's good or not. I don't like the discourse and how it's being implemented because it's based on public opinion. And secondly, give me more chances to vote on things that actually affect me, not you. Because I know you don't care what happens. You make enough money with that. Let me vote on things that matter the most, like the COVID restrictions. I would have actually welcomed it. You know, hey, people didn't let us vote if we want to be part of the EU or not. You know, other countries did, and you know what they did? They shut it down. Actually, in the EU, they did it so long until they said yes. Ireland did it. They did like multiple ones. But like I said, I want more of that. Switzerland is a good idea, actually. Or even Iceland. Iceland also does it. Iceland said, should we bail out these banks? to help the banks with your taxpayer money? They said, no, let's throw these bankers in jail. They deserve it. They play with our money. I would do that. And if you do this, and if you implement this, I swear on my life, you would have way more trust for the people. That's how you can do it. That's how you should do it, actually, because then you have the trust. Then you can work on it. And if you mess up, you can say, sorry, we tried it. We tried to better it. Let's work together again. That's how you can do it. Now, obviously, you cannot vote on every little thing. I get this, but there are substantial things that is influencing everyone in this country, whether it's the COVID restrictions, whether it is taxes, whether it is tariffs on goods, food, inflation, all these things. These type of things must be voted on. That's what I would do. And then I don't pay a price. I don't pay a bad price, because then I can say, hey, I'm involved in politics. I can vote on it and they can change it. Maybe it's not going to take one day, but then the politicians have to say, it takes time. Please be patient. I can respect that. They only just have to be truthful. They cannot say, in one day we can implement all of it. No, it will take time. Take your time, but also keep us up to date. That's what I would say. That's how I would see it. So yeah, that's my closing argument.
Okay, the discussion is very interesting and intensive. I think Legge has talked about a classical issue of political science. It's legitimacy. I think that each and every country needs legitimacy. For the Western democracies, this is a so-called input democracy. Because if you want to be the ruling party, if you want to have the power, you have to win the support of the vote. Okay, so you have to win the majority of the vote. So this is a so-called input legitimacy. This is about a promise. Okay, so if you have made a promise which if you can win the vote, right? So if you make the people believe your promise, then you can win the election. Okay, so this is a so-called input legitimacy. But for countries like China, so they are also facing the problem of legitimacy. They also need legitimacy, but their legitimacy is different from their Western counterparts. This is so-called as output legitimacy. For example, in China, the Chinese Communist Party, they are the ruling party. They have the power. They claim we are the ruling party because we have delivered our promise. Look, Chinese economy has developed very fast over the past decades. So therefore, our performance is quite good. That's why we should stay in power. So the people call China's political system as the output legitimacy. So there is one debate between input legitimacy and output legitimacy. I don't know which one is better, but it's a topic for the debating. I think this debate is still ongoing. So I mean, our discussion is very interesting because we have talked about the key issue of political science, legitimacy. Which kind of political system is better? There is no answer. I think right now there is no answer. There is one competition between Chinese political system and the Western ones. There is a strategic competition between China and the US. Both claim their political system are better. I don't know. I think the result of the competition will tell us the answer. And the second comment from me is about direct democracy. This is also a key issue of political science. Some smaller countries are practicing the so-called direct democracy. Slake has mentioned Switzerland, maybe other smaller countries. I think this is also a difference. This is also a comparison between representative democracy and direct democracy. This is still controversial, no answer. I think for smaller countries, probably direct democracy is possible, especially given the fast progress of technology. Okay, but for large countries like Germany, like the United States, is direct democracy one choice? I'm not sure, because the so-called people, okay, the people are still not reliable. Sometimes we still need elites, we still need professional politicians. I have asked some general people, do you trust the general public or the professional politicians? His answer or her answer is quite clear. Of course, I trust the professional politicians because they have the knowledge, they have the know-how to make the policy, okay? But for the general public, sometimes they are they are driven by emotion. Sometimes it's not reliable. So this is an endless debate between representative democracy and direct democracy. But anyhow, I think our discussion is very interesting because we have touched two key issues of political science. The first is about legitimacy, and the second is about the comparison between representative democracy and direct democracy. So this is my comments. Thank you.
Very much for the very interesting answers from Snake and also the very interesting commentaries from Chaoting. I thought it was very interesting to hear that someone who agree with such direct democracy. And also it remind me the theory of radical democracy theory, because the radical democracy theory would always announce that the legitimacy of the democracy and how the democracy should completely achieve in a state. But then there's also another critique of direct democracy, especially the radical democracy theory. For example, like the Brexit in Great Britain, we can see that how the referendums decide and also how the peoples of Great Britain, they regret. Because now it's 5 years later after the Brexit, so we can also see that the will of the peoples is always changing. So then the problem is, if such radical democracy or directly democracy could always fit the wills of people, and if such democracy should and also could complete the people's wishes, and so we can see such problem. And also there's a classical critique of directly democracy. Like the liberals' theory of democracy, they will always announce that the danger of the majority, like this kind of risk of majority. Because nowadays, the majorities cannot decide if a man is a bad guy or a good guy, or if a man should die, like Socrates. Because the death of Socrates show how the democracy or the directly democracy could decide a people's life, and also could make a commentary and to decide if he can stay or not. So then the other problems of the nowadays democracy state is also the connections between democracy and the constitutional state. It means there are such basic right that the majority cannot decide. For example, the majority cannot decide if a man is a good man. The majority cannot decide if a man cannot be a citizen. The majority cannot decide that if this man is a bad guy, so he should go to jail. There must be evidence. There must be these kind of legal procedures to protect the basic right of human beings. So I would like to ask you that when you think the more referendum, the more directly democracy better, then my question is, what's your board for the place of democracy and constitutional state? How could you keep the balance? That I would like to ask you that what kind of area you thought it was necessary to give the choice to referendum to the people, and what kind of choice you think the majority should not decide, so it belongs to the constitutional rules, so nobody could decide. So I thought it was very, I'm a little bit curious about your answer first. And also there's another question about direct democracy, like who can vote? Because when you talk about that the Germans people should have the right to join the referendum to decide, then the problem is why only the Germans people could join the procedures. Because in the theory of Habermas, we can see a more grounded direct democracy theory. And he argued that all the people whose interest is affected should have the right to join in the procedure to decide. So when you say that only the German people can have the right, or the citizens have the right to decide the German's business, then the problem is the people who is affected by the German's laws, do they have the right to join the procedures? Such cases we can also see in USA. For example, Donald Trump now have become the president of USA. Then the problem is when President Trump make a choice that the taxes from Canada, Mexico, China should increase. Then the problem is why the peoples of China, the citizens of Canada, the citizens of Mexico, they don't have the right to vote such procedure. Why the people who are born in USA have the choice to select the president who can affect the world, but the citizens who is their interest is affected don't have such right. So my problem is your theory of directly democracy. When you announce more democracy, more directly procedures for referendum, the better. Then my question is, would you like to agree that such right should also come to a cosmopolitan's perspective so that all the interest in voted people should have the right? So I'm a little bit curious about your answer. Thank you.
When it comes to questions like this, I kind of said that already. I would only make votes about this that affect everyone. Only everyone.
Not little stuff.
Everybody. It affects everyone. Only these type of votes I would do. Because that affects everyone. If someone obviously does, I don't know, steal food or something or steals money, then I don't think we need the whole public to vote on something. He made a crime. He needs to be dealt with in a fair way. I'm not saying kill him or something. I'm saying put him in jail. He committed a crime right there. Now, if he's a person obviously that is starving and has to steal something, he's not doing it for the thrill of stealing, but because he needs to eat. This is a conflict of interest. Then I couldn't vote on it. I would be saying, hey, this guy needs money. We need to feed him. Then I would do it. But in this type of questions, that we can't, because this would be way too much of a headache. I want votes is clearly influencing all of us. Mostly, obviously, interior policies. Taxation, for example. Taxation on our salaries. How should we increase? Should we decrease? What can we do with these money? What can we do with that money? We have a capital, and we can use these capitals for resources that we can implement it on. Do we want it to put it on more war? Do we want to put it on more education? Should we put it more on police? Maybe we should put more money on, I don't know, hospitals. Because I think they're needed right now. I think they need money. That's type of things that we can vote on. That's the things that we can at least talk about, because this is infecting us, all of us in this country. When it comes to foreign policy, obviously this is a very high class and very, very sophisticated topic, because I cannot say, well, do with that country because, I like this country. That doesn't work. We have to see it in an economic sense. Then we can talk about other things. There we can't really vote on. I want to vote on interior stuff, because what's happening in the Seychelles, what's happening in Uganda, what's happening in Japan, doesn't interest me, because it doesn't really affect us that much. What affects us is taxation. Everybody talks about taxation because that's what it's about. It's taxes. My question, a lot of money. Say to themselves, hey, paying taxes for me is too high. I'm going to go to Switzerland and make sure I don't pay any taxes. I think I should be able to vote for, hey, these guys have to pay the taxes because I have to pay them. Doesn't affect him, I guess. If everyone pays taxes, everyone should. Either everybody or nobody. Because then I can say, why should I pay taxes? I think I should vote on that. In the USA, you can't do it, for example. Every US citizen has to pay their taxes no matter where they live. So we can implement a law. You say, I would say the law, I don't care how much money you make. You pay your damn taxes. You pay your damn taxes like my father. Pay taxes like I do. I pay my taxes now already. I pay taxes for my salary taxes, my income tax, everything. Those bastards over there who live in Switzerland, they don't. I want to vote on that because that affects everybody. Why? Because the taxation is being used for implementing programs. They use these funds to invest in things like in police, like in education, like in whatever. And these guys should be obligated to pay taxes, because if they don't, I will feel like, hey, this is kind of unfair. I want to be able not to pay taxes so I can keep more money for myself, right? Oh no, you can't do that because screw you, I guess you're not rich. I don't think that's fair. I think everybody has to pay taxes. And it's a good thing, by the way, that the tax that this new tax law in 2015 is actually failed between the EU countries and Switzerland. You know why? Because now all these bastards in Switzerland who think they cannot pay taxes anymore are being threatened that they cannot keep their money in Switzerland anymore. Why? Because America has already sued them billions of dollars for helping American citizens to evade taxation. And then they say, listen, if you have money here, You have to come clean and say how much money you got. And if you don't, we give you the amount that you have in a form of a check. And let's see where you can use this. That's why we have 60,000 people basically filing for a report that they have money in there. Not because they have a good, what is it called? Not they have a good sense of humanity anymore. No, because they are afraid that they have to pay taxes or they go to jail. That's the thing. And I want to vote on this thing. I want to vote on things like this because that also affects us. People get sad when Michael Schumacher, who's a Formula One pilot, is in a coma. This guy was evading taxes the moment he got 80 million German mark every year, which is like 40 million euros a year. And he says, I don't want to pay my taxes because I have to pay too high tax. I don't care how much money you make, my guy. You pay your damn taxes. Because if you don't, I will put you in jail. That's how I would do it. So I want to vote on this. Do you think everybody should pay taxes? Yes or no? It's either everybody or nobody. No exceptions whatsoever. Now, obviously, if you don't have money and you can't pay the taxes, you cannot pay the percentages, then you're free from it. Because I know not everybody can make super duper high paying jobs here. I can get that. We have to differentiate. We talk about people who are able to pay their damn taxes. And if there's one group who can pay taxes, I think it's a person who makes 40 million euros a fucking year. They can pay their taxes. The person who makes below 1,000 a month, maybe not so much, or even less. We can exempt them from that. But we say, should everybody who is able to pay taxes pay their taxes? Yes or no? And everybody says no. Hey, I would be happier because I would have to pay taxes. But we don't have these discussions. We don't even have an idea of voting about this. Because joining the EU, that's a huge step. That's a huge freaking step, which affects everybody. It doesn't affect the high political class only. The high political class can be whatever they want. They will make their money. They will be very influential. But the idea, do you want to be part of the EU? That's a huge step. Because then you go into that trade zone of the EU. You go inside the same monetary practice, the same monetary policies, the taxation policies, the fiscal policies, the economic policies. These are very, very important things, especially if you implement the euro. Because having the same currency policy doesn't mean that you always have the same euro, the same currency, that you don't only have the euro. No, you also have to have the same percentages of inflation with like every other country within the EU who has the euro, the same currency. Do you think that's a little step? No, it's not. It's a huge step because that step affects everybody. Everybody. No one is exempt from this in Germany. Nobody. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you are high society or a person who's doing low-paying jobs. You will be affected by this. Negative or positive, maybe. Maybe less negative, maybe very negative. I think these people should be able to vote. Now, there should be a voting, an age limit, obviously, because I don't think 14-year-olds don't understand anything about this. You should be at least, I think, maybe, I would say 20 years. I would say. You're done with your with high school, you basically now start to get into the job market. The people in the job market are the ones who are affected the most because they work, they pay their taxes, they have to live by the inflation and this and that. Little kids don't see that. They don't feel that. They don't feel anything. They just have fun. They go out and cause little chaos like they're little kids. That's it. I would do that. So I don't know if I answered every question, but what I would do is only policies that really affect us all. Not some little things where one guy was committing a crime and all that. I think the judges can do anything there in their power to really to handle the situation because we have this system already. But like I said, political questions, fiscal policies, everything that is affecting every one of us, because those things affect me. They affect you. They affect Tahi. They affect Chaotic. Everyone. They affect us all. Those type of questions I want to vote on because I have a right to do it. Because like I said, the taxpayers are paying the politicians the money. Without us, you wouldn't even have a job. You wouldn't even have a salary, for Christ's sake. The police wouldn't have, the people in the hospital wouldn't have. So wouldn't it be fair for me to vote on you guys, whether you should get more money or less? Yeah, I think I should, because that is affecting me. It's affecting you. Those type of things. And you don't have to be high political, cosmopolitan to understand basic things like this. You don't have to. Because once you know, oh my God, I have to pay more taxes, you affected already. You don't have to understand it. You say, oh my God, I have to pay so much income tax. What the hell? That's the problem. Because once you see that, once you print out the paper that like I do, and I see how much I have to give away as taxes, I was like, okay, that's a lot. That's what I would vote on, because that only affects everybody, not just a few people. And if a person thinks he's so much better than me, that he thinks I'm gonna go to Switzerland and not pay any taxes. If I would be in power, I said, I'm gonna call the special forces and apprehend you all the way to Germany and put you on a table and right next to me and I say, pay your damn taxes. Because if you don't, I'm gonna put you in jail for tax evasion. That's what I would do. And I would implement a law and let the people say, hey, do you guys think these guys should pay taxes? I will bet my right hand on it that these guys, 90% will say, hell yeah, he should. Because most people, they have a problem right now with inflation. These people don't. Pay your damn taxes. That's what I would do. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Snake. I think you used taxation as a case to answer Bota's question about the direct democracy and your theory of the system. But I think Bota has another question, if I understand well, that he wanna ask you why only the citizen has the right to vote. Why?
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
this one. Yeah.
Absolutely. Every citizen, only a citizen can do it.
Why?
Even the ancient Greeks did this. If you were a foreigner, an ancient Greek, you're not allowed to vote, which was stupid because these ancient Greeks were also dependent on them because they were doing all these very heavy physical jobs and all that stuff. However, they were at least allowed to be part of the discussion, because back in the day, I think democracy was more like a forum rather than a presidential race. It was a forum of people, like rich, poor, whatever, But I think you have to be. I cannot just go everywhere and vote. That's not okay. Like then nations don't make any sense to me, in my opinion, because you have to live here and understand the policies and the way of living and all that stuff. This is how it is. It's not racist. If I go to Turkey, they tell me, hey, they say me in Turkish, speak Turkish, don't speak in German. I can understand that because they want to understand what I'm saying. I would consider that disrespectful. It's not a nationalist thing. It's more like, I think in Chinese you have this proverb called Wu Xiang Sui Su. In Rome, do as the Romans do. Yeah, well, do that. And if you don't like it, well, then go to another country. I cannot force you to stay in Germany if you don't like it. Obviously, I mean, I have my grievances like you hear. But like I said, I lived my whole life here. I went to school, I learned the language and all that. And by the way, how are you supposed to really vote if you don't even understand the language? These are intricacies that you need to understand. So yes, I think you should be a citizen of said country. Now, if you have a dual citizenship and both of these countries allow that to happen, hey, okay, go by all means, try it. You have to be old enough and have the knowledge, I guess, because I think most people who are below 20, even 20-year-olds, they don't care that much anymore. They're like completely shut down. I'll be honest, I don't care about the politics that much either, but the thing is, I know these talking points, what I just talked about, they affect me because these policies affect my way of living, whether it's taxation, whether it's COVID restrictions, they affect my way of life, or affect it because we don't have these restrictions anymore. But you saw how stressful it could be, and you're not getting asked, wait, do you like this actually? Does that make sense? No. You're not getting asked. But like I said, this is what we should do. Like I said here again, the foreigners, yeah, you have to be a citizen, in my opinion. That's just how it is. That goes for every country. It's not a German thing. That's every country thing. I don't care if you're a cosmopolitan, if you're like some world citizen. I don't give a damn. You're gonna become a citizen of that said country, live here, learn the language, try to understand the intricacies of the culture, Because without language, you don't understand anything here. Like, I mean, can you expect a Japanese person to really be involved in politics here if he doesn't even understand German that much? No, you can't, because he doesn't understand what is going on, like what it's about. So obviously, this person should be exempt because it's only for his own good, because he doesn't know anything. That's what I would do. This is how I would handle it. Now, I know it's probably not perfect because no system is perfect. But yeah, this is how I would do it. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you very much for the very interesting commentaries. For some point, I will argue that the danger of utilitarian's perspective, that when you announce that when you have already paid taxes, then you have the right. Because like then the question is, do you agree that if someone could make the great happiness to the societies, so then he could gain more power, so then even get rid of the punishment of government? For example, like if you say, okay, the rich man can pay the most taxes, so does it means that the rich man is privileged and have more right? So when he didn't obey the law and there is no punishment. So I thought it's a little bit danger when you say when there is a contribution to the societies, then there is a right. Because another question is not all the people have the same abilities to make the same contributions. For example, the people with disabilities or the people who is born in a poor families, maybe he in his own career, he cannot earn as much as a rich man in 1 month could do. So what I would like to say is there was such traditions in the Western theory, but nowadays it was a little bit different, because the problem is when you always announce the contribution, then the problem is the peoples who is in different kind of classes, who is born in different kind of families, who is different kind of background, cannot make the same contribution. Does it mean that the people should not have the same right? So I thought it a little bit problematic when you announce that the democracy must run based on the contributions. But according to the nowadays discussions, my question is about that how the USA influence the world. Why I would like to say that is because the failure of the German government is because Trump has become the president. So we can see the same day when Trump become the president or have win the elections, the same day the chef of FDP decide to leave the coalition. So then my question is, why such problem and phenomenon exist in Germany? So then we can figure out that the Germans' politics is because that when the USA's politics will have a big change, then a big challenge will come to Germany. So then I would like to ask myself that if there must have such cosmopolitan procedures so that all the interest affected peoples could join the procedure, but not like the chaos in Germany is that when the left government have noticed that Trump will be the next president, then they will fear that the trade between Germans and Americans will be worse. So in such point, I will see such weakness about nowadays politics. Because of the globalization, we can see the trade is worthwhile. But then the problem is the right of the citizen is not worthwhile. So we can see the country who have win the most interest in the world have more power, more right. But then in the other side, the people who depend on cooperation with the big state, they only have the chance to wait. Like if I could imagine Biden could become the next president, so then the relationship between EU and USA will be nice. So in such point, I would like to ask if this is the problematic of the globalization. So, and also I would like to critique of the new liberals perspective, because in the new liberal perspective, the theory will always announce when there is a global market, there will be a kind of tendency that all the government, all the country will become the democracy country. But the problem is nowadays we figure out another's. It means the countries who has already win the most countries or who has the most influence will control the global economic. So then we can see how weak the other countries they could do to protect their own interests. So this is my short commentaries about the idea from Snake. Very thank, and also my own commentaries about nowadays Germany's politique. Thank you.
Thank you, Boto, for your comments and questions. To be honest, I don't think Snake mentioned that the people who pay more taxes more right to the public politics, if I understand well. But still, we can let Snake to react to the questions.
Listen, everybody under the law is the same. If I make 4,500 a month, then the person who makes 100,000 a month is not better than me. Never. He contributes just like I contribute. Just because he makes more money doesn't mean he's better. Percentages of taxes will always be the same. It's not like the guy has to pay 50% of his salary away, while I only have to do 5%. That's not what it's about here. And like I said, yes, you contribute a lot, but it doesn't make you better. Nobody makes you better. I mean, I believe in God. I mean, nobody is above God here. You're all of us are the same. It doesn't matter who you are. I don't care how much money you got. If you do contributions, great. My problem is that we are comparing two groups in different levels, while the other one doesn't have to do anything. The other one has to do so much contributions, when we can just say, hey, let's all contribute. That's only fair. Let the people who can contribute, because then we can actually have a better connection with the government formulating a policy, and we can give them the money. If somebody decides to be a corrupt person, you're not above the law. You deserve to get apprehended. I forgot the woman's name, the president's name, the female president, who's the daughter of the general who made a coup in South Korea. That South Korean president was actually apprehended. Why? She was taking a bribe. She's not above the law. I'm not saying kill her, but put her out of power. You're corrupted. You took money from a person who has no business of giving you money to formulate a policy. This person makes already enough money. What else do you want? No, you have to be more influential in the government. F off. Do your business. Contribute. Create jobs, make money, make a good life. What else do you want? You want nothing else besides more power. And if a politician, who's supposed to be a person for the people, right, takes bribes from a person who wants to create their own agenda, you're corrupted. You don't deserve to be above the law. You deserve to be ousted out of power. That's exactly what you should. And it happened to her. And I say, hey, man, South Korea understands it, actually, kind of. Now, I know they have their own problems, don't get me wrong, but I would like to see something like that more, so they learn. They learn what it means to actually have responsibility and accountability. You know the old expression, lead by example. She didn't do that. She has to pay the price. And I don't care, like I said, I don't care who you are. I don't care how much money you got. I don't care in what part of the food chain you stand. Still a person. You're not above, you're not a god, nothing. You're not a king. Once you mess up big time, you have to pay for it. You're corrupt, people find out, pay up for it. You evading taxes because you think you got all the money in the world, time to pay your taxes or go to jail. Very simple. That's what I would do. Nobody is better than me in that term. There's people who are more talented than me, no problem. There's more people who are more successful than me. But as a person, based on this question, whether they make more money, whether they have to pay maybe more taxes, guess what? You're not better than me. You're the same as me. Because if I would be in your level, I have to pay the same. I have to pay the same taxes. That's what it is. All common ground. That's what I would say. That's what I meant. Not because I'm saying I pay taxes, you have to listen to me. I say I pay taxes, I want to be involved in it because it affects me, my guy. It affects me. What would you rather have? To be more vocal about it and to be more decisive about it, or to be a person that tells you, hey, listen and shut up and pay your taxes. We do everything for you. and then and then it just becomes worse for you. I don't want that. I would rather want to be a little bit more engaged in formulating it, on voting on it. They bring out a stupid law, I'm against it. I'm voting against it. That's not what I want. I should be able to do that. So does the rich people. When they make more money, they pay their taxes. No problem. Hey, sit next to me. Let's formulate it together. Let's vote together. No problem. That's what I want. Not because he's better than me or whatever. He doesn't have a bigger contribution than me because he makes more money. He doesn't. He deserves, however, if he abides by the law, obviously, he deserves the same rights as I have. No ands, ifs, and buts. I don't deserve special treatment. He doesn't deserve it. That's the thing. Common ground. Be fair. That's true equality. That's what I want. Nothing more. That's what I like. Foreign policy issues can't really answer on this because foreign policy is so convoluted. It's like I think I said it before. I can't think that people can really, vote on this. Or which countries do you think is worth to make a better relations with? Like that's such a hard question because I think even politicians don't know that. Because I think they have to do sometimes decisions that they don't even know. So, maybe we should work with them. But like I said, it's too convoluted. My only thing is interior policies. If I decrease taxes based on what the people think, America wouldn't even care about this. Because America wouldn't scream around, why do you decrease taxes? How dare you? Did they do it in their own countries? Every state has their own tax breaks. They have their own tax regulations. Texas has a lower income tax than California. Why? Because they vote on it. I would like to do that. I should be able to do that. So it's only fair. Now, in America, it's more of a federal thing. I would like to have more of a broader thing, a broader Germany, because I think this whole federalism stuff doesn't work sometimes, because whether it's education or taxation, it doesn't work here. We have to make it a broader, like we have to make it a whole. And based on the percentages and how the capitalists in every different province, we have to, adjust it accordingly. We can do that. We have the resources. We're not fucking a third world country. We can do all of this. I'm thinking we're capable of doing this. Trust me, we can. Without Germany, there's no EU, actually. That's how important we are right now. So that's what I would want to do. So I'll sum it up. You're not better than me if you do make more money, or a lesser person. You're the same as me because you abide by the law, pay your damn taxes. You are allowed to be somehow involved in it. And foreign policy, can't really say something because that's way too much of a very complicated thing, because in foreign policy, you have to do way too much compromising where you maybe sit next to people that you don't even like. Because that's what foreign policy is. Foreign policy is just compromising all the time. Then that's something that people can't really vote on because, like I said, even the politicians don't know what they're doing. So yeah, I think that, I don't know if that really answers the question. But that's how I would see it, because this is more of an ethical question rather than a policy question. Because money doesn't make you better or somehow greater. Yes, it makes you more successful, but it doesn't make you better. You can still be an a-hole or an idiot to me, even though you make more money. That's how I would see it. Pay your taxes, doesn't matter where you're from, and then we can work together on actually formulating and voting on a policy that may affect all of us. And maybe we can vote on it so we be affected by it positively rather than negative all the time. So I think that sums up the question that you said. I mean, you had a very long question, but like I said, I think this is like the main talking points here.
Thank you, Snake, for sharing your perspectives and your political landscape. As a German citizen, I think it's very interesting and it's very meaningful for me because personally I don't study German politics and I have very limited knowledge on this topic. But according to today's discussion, I really think that I learned a lot. And also thank you, Botal and Chaotic, for your comments and questions. Because it's already almost 2 hours, I think it's necessary for us to end up the discussion. But before that, maybe Chaotic and Botal, if you have some comments, and maybe you can make a very brief comment on Snake's answer.
Yes, thank you. I don't have comments on Snake's answer, but I think today's discussion is very interesting and sort of provoking. And I appreciate that Slade has shared his opinion on German politics. And I think his thoughts and feeling are the first-hand experience about German politics because we are not German citizens. We have no experience of participating in election. We have experience of observing German politics, but it's still not the first-hand experience. So I really appreciate the sharing from Blake. I think today's discussion is very meaningful, and thank you.
Thank you very much. I must say I'm really curious about what a German citizens would like to think, because I have already read some news and that say why some people would like or they prefer to choose AfD but not the left government. I thought it was very interesting. I thought your perspective it's also very important that you mentioned how the government have give the promise to the people, but why they didn't make it come true. And also you announced another phenomenon. I thought it was very important. That is, there is no such procedure and also some kind of democracy representative procedures to connect the government and the people. And I thought what you have said is also what I have thought. It means, of course, we can see some procedures in Germany, but the problem is who can representative the will of the peoples. There must be more democratic ways to let the people's wills to come to the truth. I thought it was very important. And in the other thing, I thought there must be another discussion about the EU politics. Because when we talk about the EU politics, then I will say it's almost a failure because it's almost lack of the procedures so that each country will have the same right to join in the procedures to decide. So then we can see how the Germany's politics and French politics influence the EU politics, but how the other EU countries, they lack of such rights, so they have such huge right wings mobilizations because they thought they didn't have the same right as the peoples from Germany and France. Just like what I have said, that nowadays a lot of Germany citizens, they fear that the Americans' new politic will make some bad influence to the Germany's economic. Just like the same, because when the Germany's citizens, they think Biden should come because then good relationship between EU and USA, then the people in the other part of Europe will think that why I don't have the right to join the procedures and to make our country's interest become the most important. So I find the same logic between the politic of Germany and the politic of EU. So that's my commentary. Thank you very much and appreciate for your very interesting commentaries and also your ideas. Thank you.
Thank you, and goodbye.
Bye.